Well, since this one was such a heavily requested topic, as well as spun off to a ridiculously long, heavily debated thread on another video, let's talk about ADHD and relationships. Standard disclaimer, I am not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I am not a professional. Anything that I say here is going to be generalized information or something from my own personal experience. Every person is different, every relationship is different, and this is a spectrum disorder that affects everybody differently. Cool? Cool, let's get into it. A relationship for somebody with ADHD can start off with intensity through the roof. The dopamine rush of a blossoming relationship can wash over us like a tidal wave, because during the courtship period, our brains are overloaded with all of the extra dopamine. But because of those dopamine levels changing over the course of a relationship, this can lead to a lot of our symptoms not showing up until much later, when that dopamine flood has become more of a trickling stream. And in many cases, the brain will start chasing new and exciting forms of dopamine to compensate. This could take place in the form of new hobbies, new friendships, if you're a dirtbag like I was, new relationships, etc. I feel the need to point out here for anybody who wants to argue further, this is what I was directly referencing in this video. All events that were based on my personal experience as somebody who was undiagnosed at the time. Moving on. So let's say for the sake of argument, you get yourself a new hobby in order to compensate. This might lead to your partner feeling neglected, ignored, and unappreciated. If you're constantly forgetting things, it might lead them to feel like they're the only responsible one. They might feel like you're unreliable or sometimes like you just don't care, when really that's not the case at all. On the other side of that, the person with ADHD might feel like they're being constantly nagged or criticized. They might feel like their partner is micromanaging them, and this may lead them to avoid their partner for fear of criticism, because RSD is a thing. So what can we do? Well, in my case, once I had done some research and learned how ADHD was affecting me, I was able to look back and acknowledge that my ADHD symptoms were heavily contributing to the problem, and even to my marriage now. So do some research, educate yourself on what symptoms are interfering in your relationship. If your current treatment options aren't working, then you might need to explore other ones in order to help mitigate your symptoms. Maybe it's medication, maybe it's therapy. In my case, it was both. But most importantly, open and honest communication. Sit down and talk. If you're like me and have a hard time regulating your emotions, maybe take an option like texting, but communication is key. The better that you can express to your partner the way that your symptoms are affecting you, the better you can both help manage them and have a happier relationship.